Hello, let's take a look at a product called gluten. Many dietitians and nutritionists unanimously claim that this is a very harmful product and that everyone should exclude it from their diet. Gluten allegedly causes various negative reactions in our bodies, inflammatory processes, and is almost like a poison. First, let's consider what gluten actually is. Gluten is a specific type of protein naturally found in various cereal grains, such as rye, barley, wheat, and some others. But is it true that gluten is dangerous to our health? Generally speaking, it is only considered dangerous in two cases. The first one is in cases of congenital gluten intolerance, known as celiac disease, and the second one is in cases of hypersensitivity to this product. Let's look at the first type, celiac disease. When people with this condition digest gluten, an immune reaction occurs. Antibodies, T lymphocytes, are produced that damage the intestinal walls. Specifically, this refers to the duodenum and the initial section of the small intestine, since gluten absorption takes place in these areas. The intestinal wall's damage leads to the loss of intestinal villi. Intestinal villi are bulges in the intestine that form an absorption area of the intestines. The more villi there are, the greater the absorption area. The fewer villi, the smaller the absorption area. That is why people with celiac disease have poor absorption of vitamins, essential minerals, and in general nutrients from food. For they have poor absorption in the intestine. That leads to inflammatory processes, digestive disturbances, bloating, gas, bowel movement disorder, and so on. The second form of gluten intolerance is acquired. This is hypersensitivity to gluten. From the perspective of Tibetan medicine, hypersensitivity to gluten occurs only in those people whose digestive fire is depleted and who accumulate mucus in the gastrointestinal tract. Especially in those sections of the intestine that I have already mentioned, the duodenum and the small intestine, and all the same processes occur, just without inflammation. Essential nutrients and vitamins are poorly absorbed, and so on. A person cannot gain weight, loses weight, and so forth. People with celiac disease need to completely avoid foods containing gluten. They need to switch to a gluten-free diet. But those who have a sensitivity to gluten or acquired gluten intolerance, they need to strictly eliminate all sources of gluten during their treatment, actively work to resolve underlying gastrointestinal problems, and thoroughly detoxify and purify the digestive organs of excess mucus. And then they can start consuming foods containing gluten again, and everything will be fine. And the very gluten as a protein is no different from other proteins. Why is gluten criticized so much? I want to say that nowadays, in the modern world, people consume a lot of grain products, foods that contain gluten. Just take a look at your own daily diet. In the morning, at lunch, and in the evening, you will find that you always have gluten right there on your table, incorporated into almost all of your meals. In reality, gluten is harmful only in two cases I mentioned. Most likely, now you'd ask me, how can you find out if you are sensitive to gluten? You need to get tested for antibodies, immunoglobulin A and immunoglobulin G. It's better to test for both of these immunoglobulins because immunoglobulin A does not always indicate gluten intolerance or celiac disease. If for some reason you decide to give up gluten, keep in mind that you will have to give up many foods. But I recommend that you start by cutting out chips, sausages, and processed foods, as well as various sweet pastries.